Complacency, self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies when it comes to safety. There are many areas of our lives that we can become complacent in, from our day jobs to driving a car to our own families. I can imagine that many of you are thinking you know what complacency is, and you probably see it coming. However, I have to say that just thinking you'd probably see it coming is a possible sign of complacency. There is a tendency among human beings towards complacency, the belief that an incident or an accident will never happen to me or never happen to my company. And it can be a major problem when attempting to convince individuals and organisations of the need to look at human factor issues, recognise risks, and to implement improvements rather than merely paying lip service to human factors. If everybody could be persuaded to acknowledge Murphy's Law, this might help overcome the "it will never happen to me" belief, consciously or subconsciously, that many people hold. It is not true that accidents only happen to people who are irresponsible or sloppy. So why is it important to know how to recognise complacency? Unfortunately, there are many incidents and accidents that show that errors can be made by well-experienced, well-respected individuals, and accidents can occur in organisations that have previously been thought to be safe. I'm sure we have all had times where our levels of arousal are low, our minds will not be particularly active, and our performance capability will be low too. This is where complacency and boredom can occur. Now, think about the other end of the curve. Performance deteriorates when arousal becomes too high. This is possibly because of this thing called narrowing of attention. I'm sure you can now see that the best task performance occurs somewhere in the middle between low arousal and high arousal. I'm sure we've all had days which include repetitive tasks, and these can become tedious and boring. Repetitive tasks in aircraft maintenance engineering typically refers to tasks that are performed several times during a shift or a number of times during a short period. I think we can all think of times when actually maybe we've been guilty occasionally of making assumptions along the lines of, "Oh, I've done that job dozens of times before." These assumptions can occur if a task has not been undertaken for some time, and it's always advisable to be wary of changes to procedures or parts. Remember that familiarity breeds contempt. So, 3 things to know about how you can reduce the opportunity for complacency. One of the things likely to be most effective in preventing error from complacency is to make sure that we follow procedures. And this can be done by ensuring that the procedures are correct and usable, that the means of presentation of the information is user-friendly and appropriate to the task and context. The mechanics and engineers are encouraged to always follow procedures and not cut corners. So, 3 things that we can do to minimise the effects of complacency. Firstly, be aware of the danger of complacency and motivate yourself. Say something to yourself if you're doing an inspection like, "Today I'm going to find a crack," or for a similar task. Secondly, get another person to audit or double check the task that you've just carried out for completeness if you feel that you possibly are becoming complacent. And thirdly, if you're able to, rotate your team members, rotate the staff. Don't always have the same person for the same task. And finally, awareness is going to be your strongest advocate in preventing complacency. Find out and remain aware of what could go wrong should you not carry out a task correctly. At some point in our lives, we've all been complacent in something. If you've got a story to share about how you've nearly become or you did become complacent, why don't you drop that into the comments below so that we can all learn from your story.